The Bermuda Triangle. For decades, it's been called the Devil's Triangle, a place where ships vanish without a trace, where planes disappear into thin air, where compasses spin wildly, and time itself seems to malfunction. Hundreds of vessels lost, thousands of lives gone, no wreckage, no survivors, no explanation, or so the story goes. But here's the thing about the Bermuda Triangle. Almost everything you've heard about it is wrong. Today, we're separating fact from fiction, examining what actually happens in this region, and explaining why one of the world's most famous mysteries might not be a mystery at all. Welcome to Beyond Anomalies, where we follow the evidence. Let's dive in. First, let's establish what we're actually talking about. The Bermuda Triangle is a loosely defined region in the western part of the North Atlantic Ocean. The 3 points typically given are Miami, Florida, San Juan, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda. Connect those 3 points, and you get a triangle covering roughly 500,000 square miles of ocean. That's about the size of Alaska, or roughly 1.5 times the size of Texas. But here's the first problem. There is no official boundary. The U.S. Board on Geographic Names doesn't recognize the Bermuda Triangle as an official region. The U.S. Navy and Coast Guard don't acknowledge it in any official capacity. Different writers and researchers have drawn the boundaries differently over the years. Some extend it further, some shrink it, some include the Gulf of Mexico, others don't. So when people say ships disappear in the Bermuda Triangle, they're already working with a vague, undefined area. The term Bermuda Triangle was coined in 1964 by writer Vincent Gaddis in an article for Argosy magazine. But the legend really exploded in 1974 with Charles Berlitz's book, The Bermuda Triangle, which became a massive bestseller. Berlitz claimed that over 1,000 lives had been lost in the triangle in the previous 26 years. He suggested supernatural causes, alien abductions, underwater civilizations, and time warps. The book sold millions of copies worldwide. There's just one problem. Much of what Berlitz wrote was demonstrably false. Investigative journalist Larry Cushy spent years fact-checking Berlitz's claims. His 1975 book, The Bermuda Triangle Mystery, solved systematically debunked the most famous cases. Cushy found that Berlitz had reported incidents that never happened, exaggerated circumstances, omitted important details like storms, included disappearances that occurred outside the triangle. But by then, the legend had taken hold. So let's look at what actually happens in this region. Flight 19, December 5th, 1945. This is the most famous Bermuda Triangle case, and it's often cited as proof of something paranormal. Here's what actually happened. 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers took off from Fort Lauderdale Naval Air Station on a routine training mission. The flight was led by Lieutenant Charles Taylor, an experienced pilot with over 2,500 flight hours. About 90 minutes into the flight, Taylor radioed that both his compasses had malfunctioned. He believed they were flying over the Florida Keys when they were actually over the Bahamas. Radio transmissions show increasing confusion. Taylor kept turning the flight in different directions, trying to find land. As fuel ran low and weather worsened, the 5 planes were lost at sea. A Martin Mariner search plane was sent to look for them. It also disappeared, but we know why. A ship in the area reported seeing an explosion. The Mariner had a known fuel leak issue and likely exploded mid-air. The official Navy report stated the cause as causes or reasons unknown, but a later amended report blamed it on Taylor's confusion and disorientation. His compasses likely didn't malfunction. He simply got lost in deteriorating weather conditions. Tragic? Absolutely. 5 planes and 14 men lost. Mysterious? Not really. Pilot error in bad weather over open ocean. But the legend focused on the unknown part and ignored the rest. USS Cyclops, March 1918. The USS Cyclops was a massive Navy cargo ship carrying over 300 people and 10,000 tons of manganese ore. It departed Barbados on March 4, 1918, heading for Baltimore. It never arrived. No distress signal, no wreckage ever found. This is often cited as the Triangle's greatest mystery, but context matters. First, it was 1918. World War I. German U-boats were actively sinking ships in the Atlantic. Second, the Cyclops was overloaded. It was carrying far more cargo than recommended. Third, the ship had structural issues. One engine was out of commission. Fourth, weather reports from that period indicate rough seas. The most likely explanation, according to naval historians, the overloaded ship encountered rough weather, possibly suffered structural failure, and sank rapidly, explaining why no distress signal was sent, or it was torpedoed by a German submarine. Tragic and unfortunate, yes. Evidence of paranormal activity? No. Carroll A. Deering, 1921. The Carroll A. Deering was found run aground off North Carolina in 1921. The entire crew had vanished. It's often called a ghost ship and attributed to the Bermuda Triangle. Problems with this narrative. First, North Carolina is outside even the loosest definitions of the triangle. Second, investigation revealed the ship had likely been boarded by pirates or rum runners. This was during Prohibition. Piracy and smuggling were rampant. Third, personal belongings and the ship's papers were missing, consistent with piracy, not paranormal activity. The crew was likely killed or taken captive. The ship then drifted and ran aground. Criminal? Yes. Mysterious in a supernatural sense? No. When you examine famous Bermuda Triangle cases closely, a pattern emerges. Weather conditions are omitted or downplayed. Mechanical failures are ignored. Human error is dismissed. Incidents outside the triangle are included. Some cases are entirely fabricated. This doesn't mean people didn't die. They did, but their deaths have explanations that don't require invoking the paranormal. So, if the Bermuda Triangle isn't supernaturally dangerous, why does it have this reputation? Let's look at the actual science. Factor 1. Heavy traffic. The Bermuda Triangle is one of the most heavily traveled shipping lanes in the world. Thousands of ships pass through it every year. Hundreds of flights cross it daily. More traffic equals more incidents. That's just statistics. According to the U.S. Coast Guard, the Triangle has no higher rate of disappearances than any other comparable region of ocean. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration states, the U.S. Coast Guard does not recognize the Bermuda Triangle as a geographic area of specific hazard to ships or planes. In fact, insurance companies who carefully calculate risk don't charge higher premiums for ships traveling through the Triangle. If it were actually more dangerous, insurance rates would reflect that. Factor 2. Unpredictable weather. The Caribbean and Atlantic are prone to tropical storms and hurricanes, particularly between June and November. Sudden squalls. Weather can change rapidly, catching vessels off guard. Water spouts, tornadoes over water, which can be extremely dangerous to small aircraft and boats. Historical records show that many Bermuda Triangle disappearances occurred during hurricane season or when weather was deteriorating. Factor 3. The Gulf Stream. The Gulf Stream is a powerful, fast-moving ocean current that flows through the Triangle. It can move at speeds up to 5.6 miles per hour. This has two effects. First, it can quickly carry debris far from the site of an incident, making wreckage difficult to find. Second, it creates unpredictable weather patterns and rough seas. Ships and planes that go down in the Gulf Stream may have their wreckage scattered over hundreds of miles within days. Factor 4. Deep ocean trenches. Parts of the Bermuda Triangle include some of the deepest underwater trenches in the Atlantic. The Puerto Rico Trench reaches depths of over 27,000 feet, deeper than Mount Everest is tall. When a ship or plane sinks in water this deep, finding wreckage is extremely difficult, even with modern technology. Not finding wreckage doesn't mean something paranormal happened. It means the ocean is vast and deep. Factor 5. Methane hydrates. One scientific theory that gets attention is methane hydrate eruptions. Methane gas can be trapped in the ocean floor. If released suddenly, it reduces the water's density, potentially causing ships to sink rapidly. Laboratory experiments have shown this is theoretically possible. However, there is no documented case of a ship sinking due to methane hydrates in the Bermuda Triangle. It remains a hypothesis without direct evidence. Scientists consider it a low probability explanation for most disappearances. Factor 6. Human error. The most common cause of maritime and aviation accidents worldwide is human error. Pilot disorientation, navigation mistakes, poor decision-making in bad weather, mechanical failures not addressed, overloaded vessels. These explain the vast majority of disappearances in the Triangle and everywhere else. Let's talk numbers. How many ships and planes actually disappear in the Bermuda Triangle? According to the Worldwide Fund for Nature, the Bermuda Triangle doesn't even appear in their list of the world's 10 most dangerous waters for shipping. A U.S. Coast Guard analysis found that the percentage of disappearances in the Triangle is no higher than in any other comparable region with similar traffic levels. Lloyd's of London, one of the world's largest marine insurers, confirms that the Triangle is not considered a particularly dangerous area. Between 1945 and 2017, the Coast Guard documented approximately 300 maritime incidents in the Triangle. That sounds like a lot, but over 72 years, in one of the world's busiest shipping regions, that's actually a low rate. For comparison, the South China Sea, which also has heavy traffic, experiences far more disappearances. Here's something interesting. Thousands of ships and planes pass through the Bermuda Triangle safely every single day. If there were a genuine supernatural or environmental anomaly, we'd expect at least some reports from survivors or witnesses. But there are virtually no credible accounts of strange phenomena from pilots or sailors who regularly traverse the area. No time warps, no compass malfunctions, no mysterious fogs, just normal ocean travel. So if the Bermuda Triangle isn't actually more dangerous, why do people still believe in it? Reason 1. Compelling storytelling. Mysteries are fascinating. The idea of an unexplained danger is more interesting than bad weather and human error. Reason 2. Confirmation bias. Once the legend existed, any incident in the region, no matter how explainable, got attributed to the Triangle. Reason 3. Media sensationalism. Books, documentaries, and TV shows profit from mystery. Solved doesn't sell as well as unexplained. Reason 4. Missing the mundane. Real maritime disasters are tragic, but often have boring explanations. Storms, equipment failure, poor decisions. The Bermuda Triangle gave these tragedies a narrative that felt more significant. Reason 5. Lack of follow-up. When wreckage is eventually found or causes are determined, it rarely makes headlines. The mystery gets attention. The resolution doesn't. So what's really happening in the Bermuda Triangle? The answer: the same things that happen in any heavily traveled region of ocean. Ships sink in storms. Planes crash due to mechanical failure or pilot error. Weather is unpredictable. The ocean is vast and unforgiving. The Bermuda Triangle isn't a mystery. It's a myth built on selective reporting, sensational writing, and our natural attraction to the unexplained. Does that mean no one died? Of course not. Real people lost their lives in real tragedies. But those tragedies don't need supernatural explanations. The ocean is dangerous enough on its own. The truth about the Bermuda Triangle. It's a reminder that sometimes the most compelling mysteries have the simplest answers, and sometimes believing in the mystery is just more appealing than accepting the mundane reality. What do you think? Were you surprised by what the evidence actually shows? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more mysteries examined with evidence and science, subscribe to Beyond Anomalies, because here we follow the facts, even when they're less exciting than the legend. Thanks for watching.